Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. So it was a pretty good week for some live events. We did see Jamil Sarum's Titan last weekend. That was actually pretty damn cool. And now yesterday we had a full blockade of one of the systems of the Savizon system by the drifters. So in that system the Amar are developing a new battleship. And well, I was there when the drifters had control of pretty much all the gates in that system. I unfortunately couldn't stay long enough to witness the fight or the cleanup by CVA. I've really been doing good work for the Empire there. And oops, I actually might want to get rid of you. But yeah, live events, they are in full swing. And so if you want to be a part of that, or if you want to have the chance to actually see one happening, then make sure to join the live events channel in game. We are here for the market, of course, so let's go straight to the plex market where we usually start, and that's at 105. And unfortunately it's not very good news, because as you can see from the chart here, plex is still going up. I thought that we might see a pullback here last week when the 5-day moving average was going to cross the 20-day moving average, but that's not happening. We're looking at, oh, actually some plex just came to the market while I did a take one of EVE Talk. Unfortunately we had a bit of a crash, but 997 million is where we were, but now we do have 99989 and another 30 coming in, up to 991 million. So is the pullback going to happen now? It is possible. But plex are very expensive, closing in on $1 billion ISK at the moment. So if you want to plex your account, you know what you have to do. You have to make around $1 billion ISK, which is quite a lot of work. But it's going to pull back here a little bit, so that's interesting. Over the last half hour, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 80 plex coming to the market here all of a sudden. So that's good news. Maybe it is the beginning of a bit of a pullback here. Let's hope so. Let's take a look at the multiple pilot training certificate. That one is following suit. It's also going up towards $1 billion on the data points right here. Let's take a look at that. 996 million for a multiple pilot training certificate. Not that much supply here. Demand up to 940 million ISK, so that's quite a lot, but this is pretty much mirroring the plex, of course. Then we have the pilot's body resculpt, which is actually living its own life. It's obvious that this is its own market and that it is not as highly correlated to the plex as the multiple pilot training certificates, because it's actually going back down towards 180 million. So it is something completely different. I was expecting more of a correlation between pilot's body resculpt and the others, but it really is its own little market that tends to do its own thing, depending on when some people decide, okay, I actually want to make my character look different all of a sudden. So yeah, plexes, unfortunately, they are still going up. There is some pressure here coming in the last half hour or so, but expect $1 billion. I think it's not out of the possibilities, outside the realm of possibilities, that plex will hit $1 billion at some point, and then we'll see some serious dumping, because at that point I think a lot of people will actually start selling off the plexes that they're holding. Next up, let's take a look at some minerals, and we'll start with titanium. That is 345. So there we go. Titanium trying to go up a little bit. So the 5-day moving average is once again closing on the 20-day moving average. What I'm actually hoping to see is that titanium gains some momentum to jump back above 520. That would really show titanium being pretty stable in the last few months here, albeit at quite a lower price point than before that. Supply demand here, we've got quite a few orders coming in of like below 100 million. Here we've got a pretty big order of 1 billion units. But the demand side has a little bit of an edge here. 2 billion units, 2 billion units, less than 24 hours old, less than 3 hours old in fact. So I think there is potential that titanium will jump above 520, and that then we will be moving sideways for the foreseeable future right here. But yeah, titanium did go down just a little bit hard here, but you can see that the 5-day moving average was above, below, above, below. So this is a sign of a sideways market at the moment. Next up here we've got Pyrite, which was actually going down a bit more substantially. Actually knows a little bit of a jump back up to 11 ISK, so that's good, showing that the averages are playing out, albeit a bit more violently here for Pyrite. So we are talking 11 ISK for the sellers, 1081 for the buyers. Very small margin, decent supply coming in here if you look at the numbers, decent demand as well, with 143 million, 550 million units as well being bought right there. So the demand is there, the supply is there as well, and it is looking pretty decent for a stable situation in the high-sec minerals right there. Next up here we've got Mexalon. That is a lovely example of a very stable mineral right there, moving right in between the 42 and 44 ISK price bands for, well, quite a while here, just above, just below, just above, just below. Very stable and pretty decent market right there for Mexalon. So 43.12 for the sellers, 42.18 for the buyers. It's just alive on both sides here. Decent demand coming in with 20 million here. Pretty good supply as well here, 163 million. Smaller buy orders, smaller sell orders. This is just a market that has found its price, and it is stable for now until something drastic is gonna change, which hopefully I think are going to be the new structures. Next up we've got Isogen. Isogen was a bit risky as well for a while here, dipping below 100 ISK, but it looks like the market said no, that's actually a little bit too low. We went back up towards 105, and now I think we are good for moving between 100 and 105 for now. Let's take a look at the sellers and the buyers. 101 for the buyers, 103 for the sellers, so right in the middle of that. I actually think that the high-sec mineral market is going to be stable there for now. Let's take a look at Noxium then, which is what I'm calling the in-between mineral. Sometimes it behaves like a null-sec mineral, sometimes like a high-sec mineral, and here it's really doing a little bit of its own thing. It is settling down, but at the lowest price point, so at 480 ISK is where the market is saying, okay, that's low enough for Noxium, where Pyrite actually pulled back a little bit. Same with Isogen. Noxium is saying, no, we're actually going to stabilize at this lowest price point in 6 months by quite a margin. So I think we are going to stabilize here, but it is a bit surprising to see that it didn't bounce back up a little bit with Isogen and with Pyrite. But well, Noxium is always a little bit of a tricky one, because as I've said, sometimes you can see correlation with null-sec minerals, sometimes with high-sec minerals. It's a difficult one to place. Next up we've got Zydrine, which is pulling back a little bit, which I think is actually pretty good news, heading towards the 1400 ISK mark. We're talking 1477 for the sellers, 1410 for the buyers. At least it's not 1600 anymore, so I think for producing some stuff, this is actually good news. The reason behind this, unknown. You know, this is null-sec. Maybe they need some more chip replacements now that the Entosi system is happening. Maybe they are a little bit afraid of what could happen to their holdings, so they're dumping a little bit on the market. But Megasite is moving as well towards a lower price point, heading towards 1800, and has actually been going down for pretty much the entire month here. So are we seeing big supply numbers? 2.3 million, 1 million here, not that much in demand, but I actually do, yeah, pretty much this is all less than a day old. All of this is less than 1 day old up until here, so there is big supply coming in. It is definitely possible that some people are dumping their stocks, putting pressure on the price. What their exact motivation is, I don't really know. And then finally Morphite here, that one's actually holding on just below 13,000 ISK, and there's no sign that that one is going down in a more sustained manner. But it's also completely different from the other minerals. All of those minerals that we saw before are used in the production of Tech 1 stuff. These Morphite here is actually used in Tech 2 stuff, so it's a little bit different, which is why I don't always check it amongst the mineral market. Next up then, Tech 1 chips. Let's take a look at the impact here. 930 for that one. And let's start right here with the Apocalypse, which is knowing a bit of a movement here, but it is around the price point that we saw 6 months ago, around 174 million. So here we went down pretty low to 172. I guess that the market said, okay, that's actually not profitable anymore to bring Apocalypses to the market. Let's hold out, let the demand absorb the supply here, and so we're going back up to 176. But this is normal market movement, but at least the price point is no longer 180, which has been for quite a while. So my speculation is that this is actually the mineral changes that were having a much bigger impact the bigger the ship you had. So on battleships, for instance, the increase in price for Zydrine and Megasite had a really big impact, and they managed to sustain a higher price because of that. But now that the high-sec minerals have actually gone down in price, all of this has stabilized and we're back where we started. I think that that's pretty much what happened. The Caracal is a bit different. In fact, last week someone mentioned that their alliance did lose a pretty big Caracal fleet, so they went back to stock once again, which I think was actually a pretty expensive move. I mean, moving it up from 12 million is actually pretty high, up to 13 million here, so that was actually a pretty expensive fleet that was bought there. But now I guess that the supply is responding here, 26, 46, 94, 42. So yeah, supply is responding quite heavily to the opportunity to sell Caracals at 13 million, and so now we're actually heading back down towards 11 million. So this is the market response, of course, and the Caracal is a fleet doctrine in some pretty big alliances, and so this is why you're actually seeing these spikes on this chart. Next up, the Dominics then. Pretty nice show of stability, starting at 195, ending at 195, dropping off a little bit here, but it's not a big move just yet. Yeah, pretty stable here, this Dominics. A little bit of a high right here, but this is actually before the mineral changes. So overall, this Dominics market has been very stable for 6 months. Next up, the Myrmidon then. That one is actually doing some weird stuff here. It started at 51 million and it's now seemingly going to stabilize as high as 54, 55 million. Quite a bit of speculation after the mineral market, mineral changes on the Myrmidon market here. Pretty big spike here from 52 up to 57. That's quite a lot. And after that, it's actually been spiking quite heavily again here, 52 up to 56. So why this is happening in the Myrmidon volumes, not that out of the ordinary, around 50 Myrmidons a day, so I'm not really seeing the big reason for all of this spiky behavior, but it is happening in the Myrmidon. Is like empty. No, you get decent supply, demand is pretty robust as well, so yeah, a bit of a strange situation here for the Myrmidon. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it does look like we're actually gonna settle a bit higher for Myrmidon. Next up here, the Oracle, which is one of those tier 3 battle cruisers. I think those were more expensive in Zydrine and Megasite, which is why they're actually settling at a much higher price. A bit of a drop off here all of a sudden, heading down to 74 million, but I actually feel that a lot of people said, okay, Oracle's at 74 million, that's a great opportunity to actually buy all of those out. And so now here we are violently heading back towards 82 million here. And I actually think that it's gonna settle around the 80 million price mark because of the producers needing more null-sec minerals in these ships. Next up here is the Stabber. That one is finally showing some stability at the tail end here, around 10.6 million. Pretty much staying there, but it knew quite a bit of spiky behavior here, so possibly Stabber fleets could be a thing as well. Maybe not in the really big alliances, but for smaller to medium fleets, I think Stabbers can be used quite effectively. So I think that that's pretty much what's happening. It's a cruiser like the Caracals, so you can actually come in here, buy a big fleet, and then move that out to wherever you want to use it. So I think that was what's happening, but still we started at 10.2, ending at 10.6. That's pretty much in line with expectations. Next up here is the Tornado, which is a textbook example of what I mean, settling at a higher price point. You can clearly see that before May, the Tornado was moving around the 67 million ISK price point. Here now, it is clearly settling at 73 million, quite a bit more expensive all of a sudden. And I actually think that this is due to the basic cost of producing Tornadoes. Next up here is the Vexor, Galente drone ship, which, well, starting at 11.2, ending at 11.4, a bit of a speculative movement here, right around the mineral changes, but overall pretty stable. So I actually think that this could have been the mineral changes causing some speculation on what could happen with the VIX or with the ships in general, and thus we're seeing some of these spikes right here, very violently up and down, but overall, still pretty stable in the Tech 1 market here. So let's touch on the Tech 2 market, 1510, and let's see what these are doing. Here's the Basilisk coming off of a nice spike up to 230 million. When you had buy opportunities close to 175, that's not bad at all. Unfortunately, the sell opportunity I do think is over. Yeah, 35 of them coming in at 205 million. I mean, you can still make a profit compared to when you bought them at the very bottoms, but I think that's very unlikely considering the later part of the chart here. So we are behind the sell opportunity. It's now a matter of where is this Basilisk market going from here. If it's going back down even more, you could have a new buy opportunity. If it starts going back up, what is possible is that this is my personal expectation, that the Tech 2 logistics cruiser will actually find much more use and more demand in Nasdaq with the new sovereignty system. And so I would not be surprised that the new bottoms could be quite a bit higher than what they were before. So that's what I'm trying to gauge with movements in these ships at the moment. Here's the Guardian then, where we had the bottom at 115 and we went down below 125 quite often. Here it does seem to be settling at 130. So we'll have to see how the Guardian moves from here, but it is a small indication that we may be in a paradigm where there is more demand for Tech 2 logistics cruisers, and where they could basically start off higher in price. Next up, the Hound here, lovely example of potential profit that was to be made over the last week or so. You could have sold your Hounds close to 19 million ISK, where you could have bought them at 16 or even 15 million if you waited for the right opportunity. Unfortunately, it does look like it's just about to be over and we're going back down. So just a good example that the Tech 2 market is alive for speculation, because going from 16 to 19 million is not bad, and you can see that it went there in a very short amount of time. Next up here is the Manticore chart then. This is against my expectation. The Manticore actually seemed to have a bottom of close to 21 million, 21 and a half or something like that. I never really liked it because it was more expensive than the other stealth bombers. But it did happen, so we definitely cleared off here. You could have bought them close to 21 million. You're at the moment selling them for almost 29 million. So if you have Manticores, this is your time to make your move, bring those to the market. Now that they're so expensive, you actually have an opportunity to sell them right here. So keep that in mind. My personal expectation was that the Manticore would slowly move in line with the cost of well below 20 million of the other stealth bombers. So it seems like that did not happen, and as a result, yeah, this was a great opportunity that I completely missed. Because I was a little bit afraid of making a move on the Manticore because it was more expensive, which was apparently wrong thinking. Next up here is the Nemesis then, settling at around 19 million. So I think if you have low buy orders, 18.3, yeah, 18.5, something like that, you could potentially, I think, buy Nemesis for that price and then wait for the opportunity to sell well above 20 or even 21 million. I think that does tend to happen. So Nemesis potentially good for some investments. Here's the Oniros then. I bought several. I bought 2 Oniroses. Shouldn't say several if I only bought 2, but I bought 2 Oniroses at this bottom, and so now we're going back up. So I think that it's going to be time for me to start putting them on the market. I think I bought them close to 135. Now I can sell them at 151. Or just below 150, I think could be good for profits. But yeah, the Oniros showing that the Tech 2 market is alive and well. I noticed this bottom. I actually bought a couple, and now here we go. We are going back up, so I'm gonna make some profit on that. Tech 2 market, honestly, pretty damn good for trading if you keep an eye on it. Here's the Purifier market then. Going back down towards 17.5. Where are the buyers? 16.6, which is well, right here on the chart. So almost there, I think. Buying opportunities here, and then it's just a matter of waiting for a good opportunity to sell your purifiers. Next up, the scimitar. That one is it's difficult because of my expectation. Bottoms at 115. Well, here we are settling at 140 in, well, decently violent manner, but the spikes were from like 115 to 135. Not bad, you could make some profit on that. Then from 125 up to almost 140. Not bad again, but maybe 10% move or something like that. I'd like to see them a little bit bigger, but here we are settling at a higher price point from my view of the chart. So for the cruisers, yeah, the basilisk opportunity is over. The other ones, I need to do a bit more research. I need to see if there is more use of them before I actually say, okay, this could be another buy opportunity. The Oneros, of course, the one exception, that one went to a low for 6 months. It's pretty obvious that that's an opportunity for you to move on that market, which is what I did. But I need to read the market because, yeah, the Oneros is actually different, moving differently from the other ones. All of the other ones seem to be settling at a higher price. The Oneros just knew its lowest price point in 6 months. It's a very difficult market, but I'm a little bit hesitant to say that we'll see these bottoms again. So that's just my take on it. Next up, the tech tree market, and that would be 21 minutes. Let's take a look at that here. Next up here, the Confessor, pretty stable, well up below 34 million right here. So supply, is that still pretty big? Look at that, 73, 38, 30. That's still really big on the supply number side. So I don't expect any big moves to happen in these tech tree destroyers. But let's take a look at the Hecate here then. Of course, that one is just too young to have settled, but look at the numbers here, 189, 197. That pressure on the price is there. I actually think that the Hecate is going to go well below 40 million in a few weeks. It's still just a newness tax that's on the Hecate at the moment, because yeah, people want to fly them, people want to see what they can do with them, so you're paying a little bit more because it is so new, but I actually think it's going to settle down quite quickly. Next up here we've got the Jackdaw, which, well, going up a little bit in price. That's unexpected. We saw Jackdaws below 35 and we are now looking at 37 million for the sellers. Still pretty big numbers coming in here, 71, 77. That is definitely not bad, but is it possible that someone made a bit of a move, bought Jackdaws, like let's say below 36 million, to try and make a fleet of it? I think that that's what this market needs. That's what these destroyers need, actually, and an alliance that finds a use for them, that actually makes them part of some doctrines and comes into buys to buy big fleets of these destroyers, thus taking away some of that huge potential that the tech tree production market has at the moment, adding some speculation, some volatility to these markets. I actually think that that could be really good for it, and the destroyers could be the right catalyst for it, if they can find uses for them in big fleets. Next up here we've got the Legion then. As you can see, the pressure is on here for the Legion due to supply heading towards 145, and we're still seeing, look at that, yeah, 60 right here, putting a damper on any increase in price. And then we're still seeing, well, not that many new orders here. We've got one right there, and that's it. So people are waiting and seeing for the Legion. Actually, the way I look at this, the Legion is ripe for plucking. An alliance that wants to make a Legion fleet can actually buy a pretty decent number of them below 150 million. So it is something that I think could happen, considering the price and the chart right here. This I think is a possibility. Next up here, the Loki. Well, staying just below 150, pretty stable here. What is the supply looking like? Pretty healthy. You've got quite a few recent orders coming in. So I actually think that the Loki still has the pressure on it. It is above 150 compared to the Legion. So I actually think that it is going to try and go a bit lower than that, just because of the general oversupply situation. Next up here, the Proteus. That is more interesting. Look at that, 170 million. The chart is still below 150, so that needs to actually catch up, but it looks like someone actually made a move on the Proteus, bought everything below 170 pretty much, I think, and someone made big Proteus fleet. The chart still needs to catch up, which is what I'm actually expecting could happen to the Legion next. But this is what we need to happen for this market to stay alive, you know, to not continuously have depressed prices in all of them. And it obviously just happened to the Proteus, 170 million. It's way above the chart. It's right here on the chart, so we will see a spike up. Unfortunately, can see that supply is very swift on this 9229 here again. So this will be very short-lived. You won't see Proteus, I think, being sold above 170 because people are already trying to take advantage of that one opportunity to sell Proteuses at the right at a higher price. And so if you have some laying around, this is the right time to make the move, but I expect that this will actually be gone in a matter of hours. Next up here is this Vapul, then also moving up just a little bit. Was below 35. We're currently looking at, well, 39 million, so it could definitely be that someone came in, bought all those Vapuls below 39 million. Look at the numbers here, 58. Ooh, that's actually strange. 588 of them, but less than a day old. So what I'm honestly hoping did not happen, or maybe did happen, is that someone bought all of those Vapuls and tried to put them back on the market at this much higher price. But honestly, if you know about the industrial potential of the Tech 3 market, that could have been a very bad move if that is what someone did, because you can already see here 51 of them coming in below 39 million. It could very much be that that this supply will not be absorbed before the market comes in with new supply that's actually going to be at a lower price. So if this is the move that happened because of this sell order, then that is probably going to be a costly and a bad move in my opinion. And then next up, the Tengu here, which you could already have seen, went up in price by 5 million. So let's take a look at that. 155 for the sellers, 150 for the buyers. And whoa, all of this is less than a day old. All of this is less than a day old. So look at that, starting at 155 right here, still less than a day old. We have to go up to 155.2 for something that's 1 day old. Wow, this is really strange, but here 156. So the way I'm reading this is that it happened to the Tengu. Someone came in, bought a lot of Tengus, and people came in with supply trying to take advantage of higher Tengu prices at this point that was, well, maybe like close to 155 or something like that. Just look at how swift the movement was. That's a huge supply in less than 24 hours right there. And so this is just crushing that increase in price of the Tengu. It just happened to the Proteus, so that one has just been bought out, but supply is going to start making its move on that any moment now. And then I think it's going to happen to the Legion next. So if you want to maybe take advantage of this information, the risk you could take, the gamble you could take, is actually buy a couple Legions at the moment, and hope that yeah, someone does buy them all out so you can actually put them back up at a higher price. But I feel it's very risky, considering the huge supply numbers we always see in this market. I still feel that despite all of the destroyers being out, despite that them being a big chunk of the industry, that there is still more industrial potential for Tech 3 than there is demand at the moment. That's my read of that market. And then next up we have the suggestion for this week, which is actually the freighter market. So we're gonna check that out at 28 minutes. And yeah, this was a suggestion from one of the comments, so let's check that out. And here is the Providence chart, and I think that this one is really interesting. Starting at 1.3 billion, ending at 1.3 billion Tech 1 ship. So stable over 6 months if you only look at those two price points. But what happened? We can clearly see that we went up to as high as 1.42 billion off, and this was probably due to the mineral changes. So I feel that this is pretty much a confirmation of my reading of the Tech 1 market and the mineral changes. We started at 1.3 billion, which would have been the normal price for a Providence. We then went up on speculation on the mineral changes. It actually hit, and the Providence needs so many minerals that it actually has a really big impact on the Providence price, bringing it up by 100 million to 140 million. And it actually stayed there while the mineral market needed time to absorb the changes. So the Nelsec minerals shot up in price, causing this increase in price for the big ships. But then it took a little bit of time for the high-sec minerals to come back down, for all of this to normalize, and now we are back at the end of the 6 months here where we were before. So I think that that is what's happening, and that is what what happened, I should say, and that the Providence is actually playing this out because it's much bigger than battleships. It has a much more pronounced chart that does show this. but it is pretty much in line, this Providence chart, with let me see here, the Apocalypse chart, which started at 172, went up to 180, stayed there for quite a while, and now we're back down to 172. So I really do think that this is pretty much confirmation of that theory of mine. Next up here is the Charon chart. Pretty much the same, I would say. Starts at 1.3 billion right here, and was there pretty stable. Then we have mineral changes that are probably announced, some speculation. Everything goes up to 1.4 billion. Everything is more expensive because of hydrine and megasite. And then we go back down to 1.3 billion. And what could have happened here, a bit of a spike up with a very sharp drop here. If I'm not mistaken, I read on Reddit that someone went out with a bang in EVE Online and went on a suicide gagging spree of freighters in Jita for a couple of days. And so maybe someone with a big wallet lost a couple Charons and actually replaced his fleet right away, causing this increase in price. But overall, this is actually telling the same story. Next up here we have the Obelisk. That one starts at 1.3 billion, ends at 1.3 billion, but is much more stable. So maybe a bit of speculative increase in price here, but then 1.32 billion, 1.3 billion. So the Obelisk, I don't know, maybe just less popular or something like that. I have an Obelisk, but I actually also feel that it is the least good looking freighter of them all. You know, it's just a big cube. Personally, I definitely prefer the DMR one over the Galente one, looks wise. So it could be that it's just a smaller market. Let's take a look at the Providence market. No, pretty much the same. Let's take a look at Charon market. That's a bit bigger than the Obelisk market. Well, actually, the Obelisk market might even be bigger than the Providence market, but it's just been a stable situation over 6 months for the Obelisk. And then finally here we have the Fenrir, which is the Minmatar one, starting at 125, ending at 125 right there as well. And yeah, again, you can see here probably some speculation on the mineral changes here. People thought maybe it's not going to happen, or maybe the Fenrir, which is only at 5, is a smaller market, so managed to come back because of a few Fenrirs lying around. But then here 1.4 billion for quite a while, up until June, until the mineral market actually settled, where we came back down to 1.3 and then now back down to 1.5. So I actually feel that the Tech 1 freighter market confirms that theory on Tech 1 and the mineral changes. And then the jump freighters, they were also suggested. I don't know that much about the jump freighter market, but if I look at this arc chart, I would say sustained decrease in price, starting at 6.6 billion, 6.7 maybe, now at 6 billion. Then let's take a look at the RIA. I really have no explanation or insight into the jump freighter market, except that it feels like I could actually afford one if I'd ever join an LSEC alliance. And it's something that I might personally want to do. RIA starting at 7 billion up to 7.6, but now for the 6 months down to 6.8 billion. So couldn't tell you what happened here, maybe a couple of gangs or something like that. But the general trend seems to actually be down slightly. And then here we've got the Anshar. Starting at, yeah, definitely starting at 7 billion, touching 6 billion here, definitely down to like 625, something like that. So that seems to confirm that trend. And here is the Nomad again, starting between at 6.9, I would say, settling at like 6.3. So don't ask me why. If you have any explanations, feel free to put that in the comments. But the jump freighter market is actually down pretty steadily over 6 months. And yep, there you go, guys. That's it for this EVE Talk. Thank you very much for watching. If you have suggestions, put those in the comments. I'd love to have more suggestions on stuff to check out as the extra product. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.